Hi, my name is Ronan Kennedy and I'm a career coach and business mentor. Today I'd like to talk about a topic that I think is very important and very topical at the moment. And maybe a lot of people are worried about it. And I think this because it's one of my most read blogs on my website and it's about being managed out. So firstly, what is being managed out? I'll tell you about this and then I'll tell you a little bit about my own story. So firstly, being managed out means that maybe you can't necessarily be legally fired or legally let go from your company, and you can't be made redundant for other reasons. So basically the manager or the company decides to make your life really unpleasant, to give you difficult jobs or less responsibility, basically make your life unpleasant in the company so that you decide to leave. So that's called being managed out. In my own case, I suppose you might look at people who make videos, people like me, or people who are so-called experts in other fields, and you might think that they've never had the sort of struggles that you have, or they don't really understand what it's like to go through working with bad bosses or in bad environments. So I thought it'd be good just to tell a little bit of a story about myself, so maybe you could relate to it, pick up a couple of lessons from it. So I studied business and languages when I was in college, and you spend 4 years learning about, all these theoretical topics and so on. So that was fine. But then when I went into get my first job, my first job after college, I was working in hospitality, working in bars and restaurants. And the thing about learning business and learning languages is it teaches you nothing about actually working in a bar or a restaurant. It's a totally different set of skills and it's very particular. So, everything from engaging with the customers to taking reservations to pouring drinks to serving food. There's lots of very particular ways to do all of these things that I wasn't au fait with. I wasn't clear on. And I had no training, no formal training, no informal training. So when I got these first couple of jobs, firstly, I got a job in quite a nice cafe, and I wasn't able to learn how to make coffee quick enough, or I didn't pick it up quick enough, or I didn't get enough practice, or whatever it was. So eventually I was just put on like dish cleaning duty. So I was cleaning dishes and cleaning glasses. And soon after that, I discovered that I was being criticized even for doing that. I remember one particular example where I was putting glasses into the sink and there was lots of bubbles on top of the water. And, I was putting glasses in on top of that. And they were saying, don't have glasses in the water because you can't see them. And if someone else puts their hand in, they might hurt their hand or they might smash another glass into the water. So it's like there was like 100 or like hundreds of little things like this that you don't think about because you're not trained. You don't understand how it all works. And I definitely didn't anyway. Maybe it's obvious to some other people, but not to me. So anyway, I struggled with that job, and eventually the way they fired me or the way they let me go was one day I came in, I had 5 shifts. The next week I had 4. After that I had 3. The following week I had 2. And then 1 shift. And then finally I went to my manager. I said, hey, I've got no shifts next week. And he said, yeah, no, you've no shifts. And that was his way of telling me that I was fired. So that was a little bit unpleasant. I would have preferred if they told me it's not working out, because then I would have been better able to prepare myself for the next step. But it's a real knock to the confidence. You're trying really hard to learn new skills and to perform well and get on with everyone. And then subtly you're just being told that you're not needed anymore. So that wasn't great. But because I needed the money, I had absolutely no choice but to turn around and get back on the road and walk around handing out CVs and looking for more roles. Eventually I found another job again in a bar again. So the first one was a cafe and the second one was a bar. So the bar was a little bit better because it was simpler in a way, just pouring pints and pouring wine. However, there was a lot of people who wanted to know about the types of beer we were using and the types of wine we were using, and they're asking about specific food items on the menu because it was a gastropub, so it was like fancy food in the pub, in other words. I didn't know any of these things. I still don't understand wine. I still don't really understand beer and all the nuances and tastes that go along with it. So this was a problem, and people would ask me, can you explain these wines to me? Can you recommend certain food and can you match them? No, I can't. That was the answer. So this didn't go well. I was there after 2 months, and there was a bit of tension between my boss and myself. And my boss wasn't my manager, so I had a manager above that. My manager wasn't the ultimate owner. There was still a person above that. But this was a bit of an issue. So because there was tension between us. So I'd go to my manager, say, look, can you train me? Can you teach me about wine? Can you teach me about beer and how I'm supposed to sell it and explain it to people? And they were very busy. So they basically said, yes, we will, but the perfect time never came around. So I asked them 2 or 3 times and it never really happened. Now, they seemed to like me, but at the same time, they didn't train me. So that was really difficult. They were stressed. I was stressed. We were all trying to do our best in the situation. So I suppose on reflecting on these things, I always try to take responsibility as opposed to blame other people. Sure, I mean, it might feel good or it might feel easy to say, oh, look, it was really their fault. But really, was there things I could have done to upskill myself and to learn? Yeah, absolutely. I could have researched all the wines online and read about them. Nobody was stopping me from doing that. I could have done the same thing with the beers. I could have spoken to the chef and asked him what his thoughts were. So I could have done all these things and I just didn't take the initiative. So I take responsibility for that. I think the easy thing to do is just to blame other people. So I don't want to go into that space. So then after that, tension grew because I just couldn't perform. I couldn't make special drinks like affogatos. I didn't even know what an affogato is. So apparently there's coffee in it and some ice cream, but you learn these things years later. So I just really struggled with it. And then my manager was putting me under kind of pressure, making my life unpleasant, being short with me, not being very polite and so on. And I couldn't understand his point of view. He's trying to run a top of the range business and deal with, a high volume of clients. Meanwhile, there's somebody who's not very competent working with him, and he's probably thinking, why don't we just get someone else? Let's just get someone else who can do the job and my life becomes easier. But from my point of view, I really needed the job. So I was stressed. So I was like, well, I'm not going to quit. So you're going to have to teach me. So we had this, I'm not going to teach you because I'm too busy. And my version was, well, I'm not going to quit because I need the job. And so we were kind of like bumping heads a little bit. So this was kind of going on. And I felt that I was getting managed out. So eventually I went to him one day and was very frank and open and honest and just looked at him straight in the eyes in, I suppose, trying to be in an open way, not a confrontational way, but still like direct. And I said, look, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to keep working here and I would like your support. So if you support me, I can get better, make my life better, and I'll make your life better. If you don't support me, it's going to be difficult for you. It's going to be difficult for me and the business, and none of us is going to look good out of this. So I tried to present it in a good way, in an honest way, but also to win him over. So after that seemed to be a bit of a turning point when he just accepted what I said and sort of said, excuse me, I said, okay, fair enough. That's the way it's going to be. I'm going to help you out a little bit more. So once I broached the issue with him and there wasn't this, elephant in the room, it's like, okay, we both know I'm not good at my job and we both know that it's important that I am. Once I broached that issue, he seemed to be open to helping me out, listening to me more and supporting me more. So I felt that was really a turning point. From then on, I improved. I still wasn't as good as I needed to be, but I improved and our relationship improved and the overall standard of what we were producing improved. Ultimately, I figured out that this job still wasn't for me. I have a whole lot of respect for people who work in hospitality because I realized how hard it can be from dealing with so many people, but also like producing a high quality of service. But ultimately it wasn't for me. It wasn't where I was going to really shine, and so I decided to move on. So it was nice to be able to broach that issue, deal with it, have good relationships, and then ultimately leave on good terms and on my own terms. So there was a couple of lessons there from me. Lessons being, confront the issues, deal with them up front, openly, honestly, but do it in a nice way. Do it in a way that I suppose you can put yourself on the same side as them, and do it early. I would have liked to have done it earlier. Also, another lesson would be take initiative early, as early as possible. That's something I wish I should have done, or I wish I could have done earlier. So that would be another good learning for me. So yeah, there's a couple of takeaways, and I just want to share that story because I think it shows that you know, I have had those struggles there. And you might watch some of these videos that I make and think, okay, this guy talks like he knows everything and that it's easy and it's just a couple of tips here and there. But no, look, these struggles are very real. I have struggled with a ton of them, and that's just one example of many where I've had to overcome. So I hope that helps and gives you some insight into being managed out and what you can do. So thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe, and you'll get them soon. Thanks a lot.